It's a possibility. All right, let's go. Steve Clark, Tom, Louise, Leslie, Debbie, Sonny, Andy, Judy, Sandra, Tracy, Karen. You know, I never know if they're actually going to let this come out. Hey, Dale, I haven't seen you for a while. Terry, Karen. Oh, man, the gang's all here. Aaron, Michael, Jim, Justin, my brother Justin, Dennis, Kathy, Judy. What's been happening? What's cooking? Betty. I missed you too, Betty. I missed you too. Hey guys. I'm back. I'm back. And hey, I'm sorry. I've been away for a long time. I know. It's me. It's Jim with Crawfordology. If you haven't been here before, you'll now know my name. At least I got that part. Now, you got to bear with me today because it took me probably 30 minutes to just remember how to turn this stuff on. There's been a ton of things happening. There's so much happening, and I've got a whole lot to talk about. We're not going to try to unpack it all at once, although I'll probably want to, and we'll probably want to spend this time. But hey, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. A lot of good it does, by the way, because I will tell you, you guys know, we talked about it before and for a long time about how people in the big tech world were just kind of reeling us back. They were making sure we couldn't connect with you. They were limiting our distribution. So if you will, right now, just right now while we're here on the show together, if you will like and share wherever you're watching us from, if it's from YouTube, if it's from Facebook, whatever it's from, make sure you share it in your stream. We're live streaming right now, so you can live stream on Facebook with us to help get our distribution out. Now you can probably see we have a very low number. What's been happening over the last 3-4 months since January, we have been told by Facebook, we've been told by YouTube that they're suppressing our signal. They want to make sure that not too much of this kind of talk gets out, right? If we get too much of this stuff out, there's problems. Not only will they put me in Facebook jail, they just actually turn the knob down. So it's kind of like you know, when I was a kid, if you rode in the car with your parents and they didn't like the music, they just kind of turn the sound down. Oh, we're not changing the station. We're just not going to listen to it. So they turn it down. So what I would love to see is I would love to see us get our numbers up. We can make the distribution happen, but Facebook will control it. YouTube will control it, and they will throttle it. And folks, in case you think that this is like fake stuff, right? You hear a lot of people say this happens to them. They actually sent me an email to tell me that they were throttling our viewership because of our fake news, right? So let's just jump right into it. Let's see what's been going on. Bear with me. We'll see if I can remember what buttons to click and what buttons not to. If you guys hear Christmas music, I'm sorry. All right, here we are, American One. If you haven't been here before, make sure you come over to American One. One thing that we have done is, even though I haven't been broadcasting, we have been keeping the articles live. This changes every day. We're keeping this up. We're watching what's happening, and we're commenting and sharing with you the things that we find that are interesting, the things that we find that are ridiculous. So you'll see more of that. And if you please, we'll just come over here. There's a lot to see. You can actually see when we get kicked off Facebook and Instagram, you'll be able to find us down here. You know, you can see old videos. There's tons of stuff here. You can actually come and watch it live from our American One site. So enough about that. Let's just jump into what's happening today. So one of the ones I wanted to start with today was this border article. You know, if you were watching, and I know you guys were all very much participating as we led up to the election, there was a whole discussion from Biden and from his people about how, President Trump had just done terrible things to the people south of the border, and he was going to make it right, and he was going to do all the right things to pull this along. There is a crisis, folks, south of the border like has never been experienced. So Border Patrol estimates that since March, January to March, almost 180,000 people have tried to cross the border that they've had encounters with. It's not a seasonal conflict. That's what the article's about. It is a real problem. These are people, you've seen the images when they allow them to come out, and you can see that there are families, that there are children, that there are people who, we understand why you want to come to the United States. Especially, we understand, if you're in a country that's torn apart and that's ripped down, we can understand you want to come here. But when they come this way and they're put up to all sorts of terribly dangerous processes to get here, not coming through the real immigration, not coming through the door, but coming through the back door or coming through the window or coming over the wall, that really risk. And I just want to share with you this image. And if you look along that wall, those are all crosses, makeshift crosses that have been bolted that represent people who have died crossing the border. So not only, so if you just as, being human for a minute and just think that I can understand people want to come here, but when we have an irresponsible government that, and I will tell you, I think that President Trump actually dealt with this very well. He dealt with this very well. He had some really good procedures in place that minimized how many people were crossing. That is until the political campaign, the political season came, and the lefties were begging people to come in mass to force themselves across the border. So you could go back and look at Customs and Border Patrol, and you would see, sometime around May of last year, there was a huge surge of people. Remember those migrant, there were just giant caravans coming all the way up from South America. People are pushing through. So here is the situation today. 172,000, like I said, almost 60,000 a month trying to come into the States. And folks, I want you to think about that number for a second. That's 60,000 a month. That's 2,000 people a day. Could you imagine if you lived on the border and there were 83 people per hour pouring over the border? The job of the president is outlined in our Constitution. The job of the Congress is outlined in our Constitution. The job of our legal system is outlined in our Constitution is to protect the American people and to serve the laws and the people of the United States of America. It's not to create political capital. It's not to create enclaves that benefit, all parts of the world except for the people who are paying their way. The job of our political leaders, the responsibility of our political leaders, is to create policies and laws that protect the citizens of the United States. And that's it. That's it. That's the law. That's the law. That's their mandate given to Congress by the people of the United States at its formation. It's a founding principle that we band together. We agree that we're going to live together and be part of something bigger for the mutual benefit of those of us who are paying the bills, those of us involved. This is a colossal failure for the Biden administration, for Kamala Mala Ding Dong. We see where has she been? She's like Carmen Sandiego, right? Where in the world is Kamala Mala Ding Dong? She has been everywhere, but wasn't she made the border czar like 2 weeks ago or maybe a month ago now? We don't see her down on the border. We don't see her breaking in. We don't see her doing things that are down there. We don't see her certainly taking pictures of the children in the cages that came under the Obama administration. We certainly don't see the care, and I'll tell you, great point, Betty. Betty says, hey, what about the veterans in the streets? 22 veteran suicides a day on average. You've all seen that number. We have a group of veterans who are in many ways not just underserved, underrespected. Their very sense of being has been turned upside down by many of these policies and many of the things that people just keep pursuing from the left, right? The idea that what once we believed was right is now wrong. What is wrong is good if you're a leftist. If you are a person who really lacks a moral compass, a social measure that you would say there is right and there is wrong, as opposed to the ones who say everything is right and nothing can be wrong. Folks, we need to be raising holy hell about this, what's going on at the border, what's going on with our veterans, what's going on with our world. How can we sit back quietly and allow these things to go? How can we allow big tech, miraculously, the concerns of the day in big tech and big corporations is about the voting laws in Georgia, which are less strict than the voting laws in Colorado. Yet Major League Baseball decides they're going to move the All-Star game from a predominantly black state, or at least a good split, right? Atlanta is certainly over 50% black. So who would be served by the All-Star game being in Atlanta? Wouldn't it be the people of Atlanta? Wouldn't they benefit from the cash infusion, their businesses, their tax base? It seems to me they would be the ones to benefit. But Major League Baseball decides we're going to pack that thing up. We're moving it to Colorado. That's where we really find the minorities get things right. Is that who we are? Is that where we are as a people, that we're unable to have a conversation anymore, that legislators are unable to say, hey, if you're going to vote, you have to have an ID, right? Delta Airlines, who also spoke out, let me try to get on a plane without an ID or a ticket. Hey, just take my word for it, buddy. I'm in 1A. Why do you keep asking me those questions? I can't understand it. I can't understand it. The world is upside down, and there are things that are happening that I do believe are coming from the outside. Now, I'm going to ask a crazy question here before we finish today, but I'm not going to go there next. So hang in for the crazy question. Hang in for the crazy question, because I know you guys have seen this, and I want to hear what you all are thinking, because it really is off the chain. Okay, so back to American One. Stop in there and see the things on American One. There's daily articles. Now we have, and I didn't put this in the headline tonight, but I should have, because it was really, it's our leading article on American One now, is the hacking of the court. What possible justification, other than you just don't like the way it looks, could the Democrats have for packing the court? And not only, even with Biden. So even with Biden, by the way, you've had not just his commission on the Supreme Court, this supposed bipartisan. I don't know where the Republican is they found. He's probably like in duct tape with a gag or something, and they're grabbing him this way. But at any rate, there is a push in both the Senate and the House to add 4 additional justices. Now, isn't that interesting? They want Joe Biden to be able to appoint 4 additional justices just to make certain that none of these people who are trying to slow roll the progressive agenda can possibly get it done. Folks, we're coming to a crossroads, and I tell you, my friends in West Virginia who support Joe Manchin, at some point, Joe Manchin is going to have to step up and look at himself deeply and carefully and decide, is he a progressive liberal or is he going to be a protector of the Constitution? I know that Joe Manchin has said he's not going to vote to change the rules of the Senate. But we have to watch this. We have got to watch this. All the things, folks, look at just the price of gas, right? Go back to before the election, we're under $2 or hovering around $2. At certain points last year, we were well under $2. I know that's not great for the folks in the oil markets, but let me tell you what that does internationally. A country like Russia, while Joe Biden, gives lip service to Russia, at the same time, he raises the fuel price through his policies. And guess what happens? When the crude price of oil goes up, Russia gets cash because they're a big oil producing state. So they generate a lot of cash. To them, to the oligarchs, to the politicians in Russia, cash turns into power. So you usually don't hear Russia doing a whole lot of saber rattling, making a whole lot of noise until the price of gas is high. Because now they've got some dollars to do this with. Trump's policies, and Trump took a tremendous amount of criticism for not crushing Russia anytime Russia would disagree with the U.S. But what he did was he enacted policies that competitively discouraged the price of oil to go high, which pulls power from the Russians. It's magical. You do it without even happening. So here we have the puppeteer, and the current administration tries to act tough, sound tough on Russia. We're going to enact these tough rules, these tough sanctions. Yet the price of oil goes up, the cash in the Russian bank builds, the power of Putin builds, the power of the oligarchs build. Take that away, they suddenly start to become a little humbler, a little more easy to work with, a little less loud and a little less difficult. The same is true in China. All the screaming and crying over the tariffs, the people who are bothered by this are the American corporations that want America to simply be a state, a country that is made fully and wholly of people who buy things, right? We no longer want to manufacture. We no longer want to outthink. We no longer want to lead the world in things. What they would have us do is we would simply be sitting back, collecting a check from the government, continuing to elect them. At some point, folks, you run out of money. You run out of resources if people are not generating a business that creates value, and that value is not just seen through the eyes of the White House or seen through the eyes of the Capitol or inside the Beltway, but instead, this is a value that's recognizable, it's transferable. Without value, you don't have wealth creation. You cannot give things that you didn't make, and that's what our government is becoming. We've got to stop this madness. It is crazy. It's not sustainable. What is sustainable is you produce something, you manufacture, you have businesses that add value, you have moral laws, you have the idea of morality. So let's see. Let me go to some questions. I've missed you guys, and I see this thing just kind of bebopping along. So Ricky Dixon says, can you connect the left to the outrageous increase in lumber prices? So Ricky, I probably could in 2 degrees or less. But let me just say this. Not everything, although I could be wrong on this, not everything is purely a factor caused by the left. I'll say that, unfortunately, COVID, which I could argue was caused by the left. All right, so there we go in 2 degrees. Yes, it's the left who did it through their COVID stuff. But as we've had manufacturing, supply chains have been interrupted. This should be an eye-opener for us as Americans. right? If we don't have supply chain here in the US, if we don't have supply chain in the Northern Hemisphere between, let's say, even between Canada, Mexico, and the US, if we have to go around the world to China to get everything, through the Suez Canal to get things, we're in trouble. We need to be focusing on manufacturing methods that allow us to use our resources locally, pull those things in. However, I'm going to say there's a couple other factors driving this lumber price increase. So not only have we had a slowdown in the supply chain, many of the manufacturing sites have been shut down or on pause. Then we had hurricanes and really bad storms last year that naturally drive kind of a cyclical price up in lumber. Wet weather here, wet weather there. The sawmills, I understand, are now cutting everything they can. They are cutting everything they can. Cheryl, I'm sorry, you say you cannot see this. That's crazy. So I think just generally speaking, if we're being honest, there is a lag that's happening right now for the supply chain to catch up. The same thing's happening right now with ammunition. One of the big plants from Remington went through bankruptcy, and it's been purchased. I understand the Big Green plant, they are opening back up, and they're in the process of doing that. So we should see things like ammo start to come back on the shelves again. But all that supply chain has a train car effect. When a train takes off or when it stops, you see that the engine moves before the caboose a long time, right? All that gap has to be tightened up as the train starts to move forward. In the same way, when it stops, it takes a while for the caboose to stop even after the train stops. So there are many things driving these sorts of shortages. The fact that most of the world has been staying at home to avoid COVID, which I won't comment on this video. I still have not had my vaccination. I'm not against it, by the way. I'm not against getting it. I'm just going to hang on a little bit. I was actually supposed to get today. I was supposed to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine today, my wife and I, Cynthia, and we decided, hey, since they botched that last batch, we're going to hold off, and we'll see what happens next. There are many things happening along the way that are going to be given, either they'll credit any badness to President Trump, and they'll credit any goodness, of course, to Biden. Stock market closed today. The Dow is at over 34,000 points for the first time ever, and I'm sure at the end of the day they will say it was some magnificent policy that Biden instituted that generated all that wealth and got the market fired up. So it's probably a combination of things that deal more with we're getting more people vaccinated. People can see the end of light. There's still a lot of free money out on the market, cheap money, and people are probably saying, hey, this is kind of a good deal. So let's see. Andy says Biden destroyed our country in less than a month, and it'll take time to fix it. Just say a prayer for the country. Hey, I'm always, Andy, for saying a prayer for the country and for our president. Even though I'm not one who supports his policies, I definitely have a respect for our office holders. Even if they don't have a respect for our country, I want to say it's something that you'll learn in the military is to respect the position, not necessarily the man or the woman, as it would be. But I do have a love and a respect for our country, and I would say there is the best is still yet to come. One of the positives that I see happening right now is that we have had now, what, 2 full months, 3 months of Biden. People are already looking at some of these things. People are already paying attention to these policies and to the things that they will do to us, the negatives. So this whole thing that has been talked about with his love affair with the media, that's going to run out eventually. That's going to run out. There is there's miles to go yet, and they're just getting started. The fact that we have, what, 2,000 illegal folks per day coming across the southern border, when Trump had that down to almost a trickle, to the point where people weren't even trying. They were saying, oh no, they got this policy, we have to wait in Mexico. So we'll see where that goes. Hey, I want to talk about two other things before I get to this crazy question. What do you guys think about the Derek Chauvin case? Guilty or innocent? You know, and just put it in the post if you like, or maybe we should make a code word, but just say guilty or innocent. You know, free or jail if you like. What is he going to get off? Is his case strong, or is he going to get railroaded here and put in jail, or does he deserve to be in jail in your opinion? What do you guys think? Is he really the the evil person who we've seen him painted out to be, or is he a guy who's caught up in a bad situation? You know, the question that I had forever with Chauvin, when I saw the video, people immediately jumped to say this is what happened with him, and that he was putting all of his weight on the neck. And I couldn't assess that. So we got some guilty, some say not guilty, some say no jail, 5 years, free, innocent. Yeah, interesting. So look, I want you guys to see here that in this moment, while we're talking about this, we have a very good example of the fact that we're not a homogenous group, that we have our own opinions, that we believe, and we can actually do that peacefully. We've had people on here say he's guilty. We've had people say he's going to jail. We've had people say he's not guilty and he should go free. And I'm A-okay with that. That's the way America works. We're supposed to be able to have this difference of opinion, have a discussion, and move through our differences. We're not in kindergarten. You know, we're not little kids who can't or don't have a tool set to agree and disagree. So I'm going to tell you, I have not watched the trial intentionally. And folks, one of the reasons I haven't been podcasting regularly is it has been a very, very busy season for us. We've seen a lot of things going on. I'm very hopeful for our country. I'm very hopeful for the awakening of people. And I'm not talking about like a Coke awoke, but I'm talking about the awakening of people, that there is a ridiculousness that's being pushed by the left, that the people who like to stir in simply having conflict for the sake of conflict have very little to offer you, have very little to offer society, and have very little capabilities on their own. What they found is that there is a niche that they have. I have a niche for needling people into anger, and I can capitalize on that because people think I'm important. I get invited onto television shows. I'm delivering the news. I'm doing this. That's not what America's about. That's not what being a good human's about. You know, race baiting, the hatred, the things that they continue to try to draw in. There were points in time last year during COVID that if you had talked with, everybody was so isolated. And if you were talking at home with your family, we had some conversations like this. We realized that if you watched the 24-hour news cycle and you only paid attention to what was being said, you could start to believe that, man, it's bad. It's bad out there. Well, the town that we live in is the city that we live in, I'll say, is about 50-50 in terms of white-black makeup. Once you go out into the town, you realize it's the same good people. There are good people, there are bad people, and the color really isn't what determines that. There's just good folks and there's bad folks. So, okay, now enough of all that. I got to bring this to a close tonight, and I'm looking forward to having more of these and and getting back on to a routine. I just wanted to make sure the stuff still worked. So, Tim McRobbie, you actually are bringing up the next point almost. Has anybody been watching? Has anybody been watching the news from the Navy on both coasts, the East and West Coast, and the idea that there are UFOs? Have you seen it? I mean, if you haven't, stop. I should have had something keyed up to share with you. I'm telling you, there is stuff to watch. There's stuff to see. Watch the video. One of the pilots actually takes a video with his cell phone, freaking out about this. But the optics on the jet capture these unidentified flying objects. It's been happening a lot. So, folks, leaving you something to think about. Remember to pray for our country. Remember to pray for our leaders. Pray for the president, President Trump.